When you have a hard time accepting boundaries, it really goes down to that deeper root of you want everybody to be happy because you want everybody to like you. And if we can tap into the energy of using the power of no, but if we can also tap into the energy of the subtle art of not giving a we're going to create such a more powerful momentum in our lives to have more boundaries with people, to be more happier because we're not doing stuff we don't want to do, and we're going to be in an overall much better headspace. In today's video, we're going to be covering a topic about boundaries and why the power of no is so damn powerful. Now, I got this video in my comment section on YouTube in my previous episode of Moon Talk. Welcome in everybody to Moon Talk episode 2. And what I want to talk about today is boundaries, especially for the person who submitted that question, so thank you very much. Now, in reference to boundaries, what initially is a boundary, you know? Well, it's a certain kind of level of tolerance that we have for people. Maybe it is a restriction with people as well, if you want to put it that way. When you have a boundary with somebody, it's like, hey, this is what I will tolerate, this is what I will not tolerate. So if you go to somebody and say, you know, I have a boundary when it comes to love. At the end of the day, I'm open to being around somebody X amount of time, but I also need to make time and space for myself. So in regards to love and romance and relationships, I don't mind being around you, but I got to make sure I make time for me too. So if I need time to be to myself, I would like you to respect my boundary of being alone and having privacy. You know, that's one example of a boundary. But at the end of the day, we often hear the term that our boundaries are overstepped in life. And I think that that really stems from being a person who's not very used to saying no. And when we get into a space where we're not saying no to people very often, we tap into that energy of starting to become a people pleaser. Now, I'm a Cancer Sun, Cancer Rising. I've been people pleasing for a very vast majority of my life. And let me tell you, it sucks because everything within me wants to say no. Everything within me wants to tell the person, no, I'm not going to do this today. But what does a people pleaser really feel at their core being? It's that, well, if I don't do things that are going to make people like me, and if I do something that's going to make somebody mad at me, and if I'm not liked, that's an issue, that's a big problem. So when you come from a people-pleasing perspective, at its core, you just want to be loved, liked, and received. And if you're not loved, liked, received, or rejected, it makes you feel very uncomfortable to the point where you need people to love and to like you. So when you have a hard time accepting boundaries, it really goes down to that deeper root of you want everybody to be happy because you want everybody to like you. And if we can tap into the energy of using the power of no, but if we can also tap into the energy of the subtle art of not giving a fuck, we're going to create such a more powerful momentum in our lives to have more boundaries with people, to be more happier because we're not doing stuff we don't want to do, and we're going to be in an overall much better headspace. So let's go ahead and lay some things out real quick. In reference to boundaries, you also got to think about it in regards to how much do you value yourself? How much do you value your self-respect and your self-worth? Do people often cross your boundaries? Now, what are your boundaries? You know, are your boundaries in line with love? Are your boundaries in alignment, if you will, with what you're going to tolerate in everyday life? Maybe you're dealing with a person and you told them before, you know, I don't really like it when you talk to people about me. I don't really like it when you tend to overstep and explain to everybody my business. I'd rather you keep what I say to you myself. And let's say every time you've said that to that person, they didn't really give a crap, they dismissed it, and they kept on telling your business to another person. What's going to happen there is you're going to be pissed. You're going to be pissed off. But the next time they come around and they ask for, hey, what's the 401? What's going on in your life? Every part of your being wants to say, nope, don't tell them anything. They're just going to tell my business. They're going to overstep my boundary. But what do? If you have a people-pleasing mindset, you're going to tell them your business again instead of saying no. Now, here's the thing. When you get into the subtle art of not giving a fuck and you start telling people no, it's really empowering. And the reason why it's so empowering is because you start not to care if they get mad because you didn't give somebody what it is they wanted. You don't owe anybody anything in this world, and the more that you keep feeling like you have to do things to make other people happy so that they like you, the more miserable of a person you're going to become. And that was me for so many years. And that's why I'm super passionate having this conversation with you right now, because I don't want you guys to fall into that trap and get screwed over. When I started telling people no, I want to hang out today. Well, you know what? I need rest. So sorry, I don't want to hang out today. Oh, dude, that sucks. Yeah, it does. But I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm glad that I said no, because if I would have went out when I really needed to go ahead and chill out a little bit, have a rest day, rejuvenate my energy, I would have felt like crap hanging out the entire time. Then I would have came home, and by the time I came home, I probably had to go to bed, and then the next morning I wake up and I still had no energy because I took no time to relax. You see what I'm saying? So when I started saying no to people, Whether it was a hangout, whether somebody wanted to know what was going on with me, whether somebody wanted to do something I was uncomfortable with, telling people no made me feel more empowered, and not caring how they viewed me afterwards made me feel more empowered because I stopped giving a fuck. So I genuinely feel for anybody who has an issue with boundaries, you got to first get into that mentality of no longer wanting to please others. Please yourself. That's very important. You're not selfish for pleasing yourself. There's a big double standard with the energy of selfishness, because if you're not doing something else to make someone else happy out of their own pure selfishness, and you do something for you instead, they'll call you selfish when they wanted a selfish action or choice too. So at the end of the day, it's a very big double standard. So I feel here for anybody who has trouble with boundaries, first start identifying as no longer being a people pleaser, right? Stop caring about making other people happy or making other people like you. You know, go at the core, look into the core of yourself of why do you need to be loved and liked? You know, that stuff can stem from childhood, like childhood trauma, anything of that nature. But at the end of the day, when you start to build yourself into a place where you're confident enough in who you are, and you don't really care if other people like you or love you or not, then it becomes more easier to tell people no. It becomes more easier to establish boundaries overall. So my advice to anybody out there that has difficulties with boundaries is, first, stop people pleasing. Second of all, get to the root of what causes you to feel like you need to please others and that you need to be liked. You know, ask yourself your question, or ask yourself that question at its core and figure out what's going on over there. Why do I need to be liked so bad? Figure that out. Third thing that I would recommend for everybody who has a trouble setting boundaries is really start becoming comfortable with the person you are. The more comfortable you are in yourself, the more comfortable you're going to be telling people no. Period. You know, so the more comfortable you get within yourself, the more comfortable you'll be expressing yourself going forward. So I would definitely advise people that have trouble setting any kind of boundaries is to get very comfortable, know your worth, know your value, and practice your worth, your value, and your self-respect. You know, I remember when I had a really difficult time with boundaries, people would always want something from me and I wouldn't be comfortable with giving it to them, but I would do it anyways because I wanted to be loved. I think at my core, I wanted to be loved so bad because I felt that if anybody ever saw me in a negative light, and I think it's because a lot of people have seen me in a negative light in my life, that it kind of forced me to want to be on the flip side to be loved. I think that that's where mine stems from, because I've dealt with so many experiences with old friends in the past and old different kinds of people where they just didn't like me for some reason. And because of that, I couldn't face it. I couldn't handle it. I hated not being liked because I dealt with it so much and so frequently in my life. And it got me to a point where I had to do everything I could do to be a yes man to people, to make them happy, because if I was making other people happy, they liked me. But they didn't like the authentic version of who I was. They liked the yes men version of who I was. I'll be your yes man. I'll do anything you want, anything you ask right here, right now. They loved that version of me, but it wasn't authentic. It wasn't who I truly was. When I started getting into the power of saying no and establishing boundaries with people, I became my authentic self. And being my authentic self, if I didn't want to do something, fuck that, I'm not doing it. And you know what? If they didn't like me at the end of the day, then they didn't like my authentic self. And then I said, okay, you're not the person for me. That's fine. So it's incredibly empowering to make sure you say no to people, or you say no to situations, or you embrace the power of no when you don't want to do something. And in regards to your boundaries, when people continuously overstep those boundaries, don't give them another opportunity or chance to even step over them again. You know, if somebody oversteps your boundaries, what they are legitimately telling you is I do not respect you. Say that with me. If somebody oversteps my boundaries, what they're legitimately telling you is I do not respect you. And the last thing you want to do is allow yourself to continuously be disrespected. So another great thing you can do in terms of establishing boundaries is establishing a lot of self-respect. Recognize you deserve to be respected just as much as the other people you try so much to respect as well. You know, usually when people are caught in the people-pleasing energy, have trouble establishing boundaries, what they do is they respect so many other people, but they have a hard time respecting themselves. So when you get into that energy where you can work on self-respect, work on self-evaluation, seeing yourself in a positive light, seeing yourself as worthy, and just being in an energy here overall where you can say no to other people and you can say, hey, I'm sorry if you're disappointed, but I need to do what makes me happy. If you can get into that energy, it's going to be a massive game changer in your life. Okay? So for anybody who's watching this video so far, I hope I made an impact on everything that I spoke about in reference to boundaries. You want to establish more boundaries, you got to be comfortable with telling people no. And at any given moment in time, if people continue to overstep your boundaries, they're telling you, I don't respect you. And you need to no longer make room for people in your life who do not respect you, because you are meant to be respected. And respect is something that is earned. It's not necessarily given. So remember that as well, okay? But hopefully I answered that question to the best of my ability here for the person who asked that. But thank you guys nonetheless for coming out to Moon Talk. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I wanted to make it more authentic, more free-flowed. Mercury in retrograde, of course. I'm saying flowed instead of free flowed. But at the end of the day, I wanted to make it more authentic instead of really chatting and cutting up the clips and editing and doing all that stuff. I hope you guys enjoy this video nonetheless, okay? If you have a comment of what you'd like me to talk about next for next week's episode, leave it in the comment section below. But guys, it's been a pleasure. Remember, don't be a yes man. Embrace the power of no. Make sure you're giving yourself self-respect every given moment in time, and don't be a people pleaser. Get into the energy of not caring and not giving a fuck if other people are disappointed. If you embrace that power of no and they don't like you because you said no, then it is what it is. Not everybody in this world can get their way. But make sure you're making yourself happy and make sure you're reinforcing those boundaries, because the more they overstep them, it's the more people are telling you, I don't respect you, and you deserve respect just as much as anybody else. All right? All right, guys. It's been awesome. Much love to every single one of you, and I'll see you guys in next week's episode. Peace.